drama. He invented the comedies, which are this strange, bittersweet mixture. They're drenched in melancholy and they're drenched in sex. And also, there's a sort of ambivalence, sexual ambivalence, gender ambivalence about them, which goes on from generation to generation. And of course, today, gender ambivalence is increasingly a subject which is very much in the news. Then the history plays invented a kind of drama which we see over and over on TV and in movies, which is the ability to go from big public events such as the Queen and President of the United States to small domestic incidents. So you've got the huge, the world of the telescope, the world of the microscope. And that's something which has been bled into all drama. And the third invention of his was tragedy, Shakespearean tragedy, which is a strange battle of people, of individuals against the fates. And one of the reasons that he's translated all over the world is that it's not specifically English or British, and it's not specifically Christian either. So often in Shakespeare's plays, they're railing against fate or the gods or just life. And in the end, the lesson is that the secret to managing life lies in ourselves. And of course, that's a universal lesson.
Sir Richard Eyre, thank you very much for coming in. Thank you.
Pleasure.
We're going to go over to Downing Street now and keep an eye, because President Obama and David Cameron are about to come through the door. And our correspondent, Vicky Young, is there and has been watching this. So, Vicky, what have they been talking about? Do we know? And I'm sure Europe's been in there.
Yeah, I mean, we had an agenda and a brief...
Very good. We've distributed our song sheets to the entire presentation department, so they're all going to sing in there as well. Got them ready for the end of the programme? Here is the very last Mysterious Cities of Gold. Here we go. Are you all ready? Children of the sun, see your time has just begun, searching for your way. And the noise you heard with it was that lot in there. I've got them strapped to the microphone down here. That was magnificent. Magnificent. We'll bring it out on the record. Still to come this afternoon. Don't forget, we blew Peter. But now it's time for another John Craven's News Round.
Top words. The leader of the UK Independence Party, UKIP, Nigel Farage, saying that this president is probably the most anti-British American president that there's ever been. And he says, thank goodness he's not going to be around for that much longer. And he's also rather controversially pointed to President Obama's ancestry, saying because he has a Kenyan grandfather, it means that he has a certain view of Britain and he's against the colonialism, and that's why he's taken this view that he is in the European Union. So an awful lot on the agenda. What will be interesting, of course, is we've seen that article from the president. When we hear him in the press conference, how far will he go and what will he say in answer to the questions that will be put to him about exactly why he thinks Britain wouldn't be better off outside of the European Union.
So we're looking at the door still. It's always one of those waiting games, isn't it, when you're waiting for someone to come out. But today has started off in a rather regal manner, didn't it, for the President and First Lady, Vicky? And it's going to end like that as well.
Yeah, that's right. There's really two elements to this visit. Probably his last as President of the United States. He obviously arrived late last night on the Queen's 90th birthday, I think deliberately arriving after those celebrations had happened. But of course, having that lunch today with the Queen, then the sort of the political bit in that sandwich, if you like, before this evening going off not too long from now, actually, to Kensington Palace, where he'll meet the younger royals, Prince William and Prince Harry, for a dinner there. But of course, this is part of a wider tour by the president. He's been in Saudi Arabia, he'll be going to Germany, and actually there will be more discussions in Germany early next week about the situation in Libya. But there's been an awful lot of talk too about the special relationship. Is it still as special as it used to be? We've seen throughout the years about when an American president comes here, it's always a special moment. You might remember when President Clinton was actually invited to a Labour Party conference in Blackpool by Tony Blair. That was a pretty big moment. And then Tony Blair's relationship with President Bush, which of course was seen as incredibly close, but the Iraq War of course gave all that a very different dimension. But there has been talk about whether under President Obama things have changed. Has the relationship cooled a little bit? People say actually when it comes to making a phone call to Europe, his first call is to Angela Merkel, to Germany rather than to Britain. And we know from recent interviews that the president has given that he was a bit irritated with the Prime Minister, with France and Britain. He felt they didn't really follow through when it came to the Libya situation. Colonel Gaddafi was removed, but then he felt that David Cameron got a little bit distracted. I suppose the question for this visit and the question for Downing Street is whether these interventions from foreign leaders make any difference to the way that people might vote in a referendum, which is still some time away, of course. Not everyone will yet be engaged in the arguments over all of this. We've had a parade of people and of institutions and world bodies coming out saying that Britain is better off in. Now, how that plays out is obviously a different matter. Will people listen to the president? He is, according to the polls anyway, seen to be a particularly popular figure. I think Downing Street feel this is a particularly powerful voice because he's not a European leader. He's not President Hollande or Angela Merkel. He's not someone who particularly would have a view about the European Union project. So they think that it will make a difference. They feel, I think, that when an American president comes, you can see the red carpet out there, that it sprinkles a bit of stardust around, and maybe that's what this campaign needs. Whereas the other side, of course,